Two of the most boring world champs that I have ever seen, regardless of company, in my opinion, were Bret Hart and Jeff Jarrett. Now, sure, let the flaming keyboard fingers of fire begin for the first one in particular, saying, "How dare you, Schleg Daddy, the excellence of execution. He was the hitman. He was one of the all time great in ring performers in the history of the WWF/WWE." Well, I will say this as far as the Bret Hart standpoint, it took me a long time to even gain any real appreciation for him. He was the top guy at a time where I didn't have a lot of interest in the WWF product, and I feel like in large part it was due to Bret Hart. I was never really a fan of his. He just never really connected to me. Sure, he was good in the ring, but back then maybe the in-ring stuff wasn't quite as important in terms of that excellence of execution, skip-de-skip, whoop-de-whoop. I was a little more about the storytelling and da-da-da. I thought this was a guy that didn't really do a good job of changing his facials to match the consequence of the moment or the spot, what have you. And I thought he had the personality of a toadstool and the mic skills of a block of wood. Now, however, it did get to a point in time where Bret Hart did start to entertain me, in particular the Team Canada stuff in '97. Outstanding. And just as he was starting to get really interesting to me, of course, you had the Montreal Screwjob, and then he goes to WCW, and they don't know what the fuck to do with him. The other really boring world champion to me, above all else, obviously, is Jeff fucking Jarrett. I never got it. I'll never get it with that slapnuts blonde Memphis mid-card piece of crap. His Jackie Fargo ripoff strut, maybe 6 foot, 220 pounds, can't really talk, at least to me, at a main event level. He's an average worker, but nothing spectacular. And just the way he's always packaged, the way he's always presented, all the shit he was involved with that he ended up bringing down. Just over the years, it was just absolutely ridiculous. See NWO 2000, see The Horseman. When he was involved with that crap, it was crap because Jeff Jarrett was involved in that crap. And let's not even get into all of the unnecessary pounding down our throats we got of Jeff Jarrett over the years in freaking TNA. But as I'm sitting there and thinking about it, I just got bored this week. I thought about something for a few minutes. I'm like, who is the most boring world champion of all time to me? In particular, who's the most boring world champion in the history of WWE? I sat there and I thought about it, thought about one name, then I would go to some others, then I would come back to that one name, and then go to some others. And then I kept coming back to that one name. And no, it wasn't Mr. Bob Backlund. If you ever thought he was boring, then fuck you. To me, I just sat there and I was thinking about it. I'm like, I'm not counting guys that maybe had very short world title runs or anything like that. I'm talking about guys that had long title reigns or had numerous title reigns. And I couldn't think of a main event guy or a world champion more boring to me in the history of the WWE than Randall Keith Orton. Sorry, Chase. Sorry, Justin from the Trio Woe Show. But it's just fact for me. I think he is the most uninteresting, boring, flat-out waste of main event space in the history of the WWE. I just think about all the garbage and crap that he has been involved with over the years that he has largely contributed to it being garbage and crap. Let's not even get into all of the feuds involving John Cena. Oh my fucking God. But even when I think back to the days of Evolution, here he is. He's being pounded and pounded and pounded and pounded and forced down your throat. There's a difference to me between a push and a force, and sometimes you have to really toe the line. And to me, with them, it was just the early days of Evolution. It was a full-out force, a pound, a pound, a pound. And I'm sitting there looking like they're treating this guy as the future of the business. If that's the future of the business, then God help us all. No charisma, no real mic skills to speak of, and frankly, kind of a boring in-ring style minus the occasional spectacular move. And a guy all the while that whenever he tries to RKO somebody through a damn table, half the time he couldn't even hit at the beginning, he couldn't even hit his finishing maneuver correctly, and that's his damn finisher. Sometimes he hurt himself doing it. And then when he tried to RKO somebody through a table, most of the time the damn table didn't break. And don't sit there and tell me it wasn't designed to break. It was. He just didn't make it happen. But I think about it over the years and I'm like, God, then look at Legacy and how stupid and dumb dick that faction was. Oh, good grief. Think about the feud with him and Christian. Oh, God, good grief. I even look at the feud between him and Daniel Bryan and how bad he was. His being aligned with the authority. Frankly, one of the most interesting things I think that Randall Keith Orton has ever frankly done is this new incarnation of Evolution. This guy is a double-digit, multiple-time world fucking champion. They package him as a huge freaking deal, one of the biggest stars in the company. Yet routinely, you will go somewhere and the crowd will turn on his matches. They will chant boring. This guy loves his headlocks. He loves his chin locks. What am I not getting about Randy Orton? Why do I think this guy is such a boring, dull fuck? I'm serious. When I think about all the people over the years, like even I could say, as boring as I find John Cena, as uninterested as I am in John Cena, he at least has some redeeming qualities to not to me be a total raging suckfest and suck machine. He can at least talk. He at least has some type of personality and charisma. Things that Randy Orton still in 2014 has never managed to develop or cultivate or create for himself. I'm the Viper, Randy Orton. Look at my poses. Yes, the Raging Ring Boner. Good stuff. The sleeve tattoos. Outstanding. The construction worker beard. Top notch. The baby oil. Good stuff again. But that's what he's got going for him. That's it. I mean, I'm really trying to think about the last time that I was really engaged and fully entertained and interested in a Randy Orton feud. Especially a feud that involved a top spot or a main event spot or a world title spot. I can't think of it. You could maybe say Mark Henry only because that was when Smokey was around, and everybody should have known at that point in time with Smokey's support that Mark Henry was going to kick the shit out of Randy Orton not once but twice. But at no point in time was Randy Orton anything close to compelling or interesting during that entire period. I mean, I'm serious. This isn't the greatest video I've ever done by any stretch of the imagination, and dare I say it might be very boring to you. But there's a reason for that, because it matches the subject matter. Randy Orton is the most boring-ass main eventer and world champion in the history of the WWE. I think about all the times he's main evented shows, whether they be Raws or SmackDowns or live events or pay-per-views, and half the damn venues had to be tarped off because nobody else seemed to give a shit either. This is a guy that the people pop for his music somewhat, and then they maybe pop for his finish, but a lot of the other times they're chanting other shit during his matches or not saying or doing anything at all. Randy Orton is boring. And you would think, after a decade of being pounded and pounded and pounded and pounded down our damn throats, that at some point in time, this guy would get it, and he would get a clue, and he would get better, and he would actually become the main eventer that the WWE and Randy Orton himself both proclaim him to be. To me, part of being a main eventer is, even if you're not for everyone, you at least have to have the ability to entertain some form of the masses. And I just really wonder in 2014, what form of the masses other than Justin from the Trina Woe Show and Chase Oliver 68 does Randy Orton really entertain anymore? I think the IWC, by and large, hopped off the Randall Keith Orton bandwagon 3 or 4 years ago. And for sure it happened once he won the world title after Christian won it 2 days before. I just think about it. And I think about the guys from the Hogan era, and I think about Hogan and Savage and Warrior and Slaughter and Andre and DiBiase and Jake the Snake and da-da-da. I go, yeah, hell, even to the next generation era. You had Shawn Michaels, you had Diesel, you had Razor Ramon. I guess you'll throw Bret the Hitman Hart in there. He sure as hell ended up being a hell of a lot more entertaining than Randall Keith Orton ever could dream to be. Look at the Attitude Era. Austin, Rock, Triple H, Taker, Kane, Mankind. Oh. Big Show, Jericho, Angle, on and on and on. Even the Ruthless Aggression era, you still had the guys like the Angles and the Takers. You throw in the Brock Lesnars of the worlds and so on and so forth. You had a lot of entertaining main event guys. Something that to me is clearly lacking in today's WWE are those unanimously over top guys. And Randall Keith Orton in no way, shape, or form to me, in any sense of the word, is anything close to an entertaining top guy at all. Look at the build up to WrestleMania 30. Randy Orton was so uninteresting and so boring and so overpushed and overpounded into his top spot where they got to the point where they de-emphasized the WWE World Heavyweight Champion heading into WrestleMania 30. You don't do that with just anybody. It takes a certain level of boring and suck to be able to get that out of the WWE, and by God, they do it consistently with Randall Keith Orton. Have you ever seen a guy in a top spot for so many years that they have done such a job of trying to accentuate the positives and hide the negatives that they do whatever they can to avoid interviews and promos as much as they possibly can with this guy? How can you have been doing this for over a decade in a top role and still not figure it out and still not piece it together? Randy Orton, I'm sorry. No disrespect, but flat out, you are the most boring WWE champion in the history of history. You were the most boring main eventer in the history of that damn company over 50 plus years. Period. I hear voices in my head. You know what they're telling me? Fuck this douchebag. I'm going to take a nap.